Alrighty, good morning, everybody. Steve here from The Varied Life. Yes, the place where the YouTube channel. So hit like and subscribe to check it out. There's a mishmash of videos that deal with being retired in Korea, but also some hobby stuff, some exercise. It's kind of a culmination of a lot of different things. But in this one, for those of you who don't know, my wife and I, we sold everything we had in the United States, house, car, truck, everything, guns, ammo, the whole kit and caboodle, even everything in the kitchen junk drawer, threw stuff in a couple of suitcases, and we ended up retiring here in Korea. Uh, the benefits of that is we got to retire early, so we have longer amount of our golden years, which is really, really nice. Today's topic, we're going to talk about medical clinics and the costs associated out of pocket. So for those who don't know, if you have a long term visa here in Korea, whether you're a student or working or teaching English and working over here for some way, shape, or form, you're on a long term visa. If you stay longer than 90 days in Korea, you are required to have either medical insurance or Korean national health insurance. Now, the Korean national health insurance costs about $110 a month. And with that, you can go see clinics, you can go to hospitals. They will do the normal routine care, routine tests. Oh, got a sore throat, I got this and that. And they will pay, and it's very minimal, even though you are paying every single month. It's consider it kind of like a copay system, similar to what we have in the United States when you have health insurance. Some small payments that you have to make, but overall you get a pretty decent return. Well, the question is, people have been asking me, well, what about medical clinics, hospitals, out-of-pocket expenses? And how do they compare to the United States? It's pretty eye-opening. For those people that have lived in the United States for their entire lives, you're used to medical costs being here, and you think that medicines and prescriptions and everything is at this price level, and then perhaps you go to another foreign country. You have somebody like me who's been to multiple foreign countries and retired, for example, here in Korea, and you look at the same medicines, the same exact same prescriptions made by the exact same companies, and you will notice there is a huge price difference in the cost of prescriptions. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, another thing, if you don't have Korean national health care insurance or national health insurance, you can get an exception if you have health insurance that is accepted by the Korean government. And thankfully for us, the health insurance that we have is TRICARE, because I'm retired military, so we have TRICARE Overseas Select. We went from TRICARE Prime, and when you live overseas, you choose the Overseas Select option. So there's a number of hospitals here in Korea that will bill TRICARE for your medical, and so you don't have to do anything. Now, there are some other clinics and hospitals where TRICARE and is dropping the ball so many times that some hospitals are saying, we'll treat you, but you got to pay us up front, and then you submit the paperwork to TRICARE, and then you get reimbursed. The reason that there seems to be more and more hospitals that are doing this is the fact that TRICARE is dropping the ball on a lot of things. Now, a lot of people have had great, outstanding service with TRICARE, others not so much, but I just find it concerning that there are a number of hospitals that are reversing their decision in TRICARE Overseas Select, where the hospital would basically file the paperwork for you, but now they've changed their mind. They're putting it all on you, so you have to pay up front. So that can be a concern, not only for those people here in Korea, but for other people that are overseas, because I'm starting to see a trend in some other countries as well, where more veterans and more retirees from the military services are experiencing the exact same thing with their TRICARE Overseas Select. So in my opinion, I think what's happening is that we're getting substandard service from TRICARE, and the hospitals are not putting up with the BS, and so they're saying, hey, we're out of this game. We're spending way too much time. We're not getting our money in a timely manner, and that's what I've heard that it comes down to. So the hospitals are saying, no, we're not going to do this anymore. You file a claim, you get reimbursed. Of course, that's predicated upon you paying for your service up front. So again, it just goes to show that if you retire in Korea or any other overseas location, you need to have some savings just in case. You need to have some emergency funds for medicals or emergency flights back stateside or things like that. So with that out of the way, we're going to talk about medical clinics, because you have hospitals, kind of like Samsung Medical Center, close to where we live in Pyeongtaek or by Pyeongtaek is Good Morning Hospital. That is a fairly large hospital. And you can go there and get seen for pretty much anything. If you got a sore throat, if you've got a cold, if you've got the flu, if you've got the thing, which the jab didn't really help with, you can go to those places and get treatments, x-rays, all types of service. So if gastro, muscular, skeletal, mental health, the whole 9 yards, you will find a hospital that you can be treated at. Now with that, there's other smaller towns and cities that don't have large hospitals. And here in Korea, it's very different because a lot of people will travel many miles to get to a large hospital to get treated. And then when they're in their home city, which is maybe a smaller, medium or smaller size city, they will go to a medical clinic, not a full size hospital. So you would have like a couple of doctors, they'd have some x-ray machines, they'd have a couple other, things and services that they offer to cover a lot of services that, that they can offer their clients. But with that, anything big or anything really specialized, you would have to travel to go to a larger hospital. So the question was, how much are medical clinics and can you pay for those out of pocket? And the answer is yes. Matter of fact, my voice is just a little bit off. I'm still getting better from flu, cold, COVID, whatever it is we had, I don't know. But we ended up going to a clinic because we didn't want to travel and go to the hospital. And we figured, let's just go. And the amount of money, we kind of figured the amount of money that we would pay for the TRICARE and paying in advance or the percentage and stuff like that, we wanted to try a local clinic. So we hit a local clinic up, and both me and my wife, and the appointments or the cost was like $100 for both of us. And then for the medications, it was about $100. So the medications is what's really interesting. So we got basically a cold pack, but it was a cold pack on steroids. I've had cold packs in the United States where it's here's some Motrin, here's this, here's some cough syrup, here's something for your fever, boom, and that's it. And if you get it from the clinic, it can be kind of expensive. Here in Korea, medications are not that expensive. And I got seen for sinus infection, so I've got a 5-day run of medications for treating all the symptoms and the sinus infection of the whole 9 yards. So it was a week's worth of medications, and with multiple pills and even some liquid packets for the throat and cough and so on and so forth. Man, those things are strong. And that was, that wasn't even the hard stuff. They got some really hard packing antibiotics and so on and so forth. But with that, the cost that we had was less than half of what we would pay in the United States, easily less than half. And they also saw and shown the doctor and said, hey, well, I've got this toenail fungus that isn't going away. I got treated in the United States with medicine, which was an oral medication and a topical medication to go on the infected nail. And all of them cleared up except for the one. And so I showed the doc, said, hey, here it is. And he goes, oh, okay, yeah, we got the exact same medicine. And it was like 40,000 won. And that same medication in the United States is like $700. And you don't know that in the United States because usually you have insurance that will cover the majority of that, but you will have a copay. But here in Korea, that medication was like 43,000 won. So if we do the conversion rate of, let's see, 43,000 divided by, we'll just say 1,300 because it's about that. That's like $33. So that's going to be a month's worth of medication for the oral medication and the topical medication that you put on there. It's like $33, $30 to $33, which isn't bad. And if you had to buy that in the United States, you're looking out of pocket, you're looking at $700. Now, this doctor, he was trained in the United States, and so when we, he spoke English, so that was kind of good. My wife was with me as well, so she, we did this Korean and English and both and all that stuff, but really well-informed doctor, and he's of the opinion of, hey, I want to see you once, I want to get you out of here and on your way, and so that you can go do your life. But a lot of medications are really inexpensive when it comes to clinics, medical clinics, and going to Korean pharmacies. It is really just like a medication that I had for mental health. Thank you, PTSD. Thank you, Uncle Sam, for that, the gift that keeps on giving. It would be hundreds of dollars in the United States. I mean, $400 or $500 in the United States, but here in Korea, the same medication, actually it's an updated version, it's a better medication, and I actually feel better on this medication than I did on the old one because the doctor actually said, that's the old medication. We don't use that anymore because it's not as effective as this new medication that we're using. And it was like $30. It's like, what? Or no, $15. It was like $15 for the medication. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. $15? We did the math, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, there are some huge differences in the cost of prescriptions and medicines that you can buy in even the medical clinic. Like I mentioned, my wife and I, we went to see the doctor. He saw her, he saw me, and it was like basically $50 per person. So medical clinics are really good if you have to pay out of pocket. Now, if you have Korean National Health Insurance, then you could go to the clinic, they process the paperwork, there might be a small copay, but pretty much everything is paid for, and then you just, do your little prescription thing. Again, you're going to save a lot more money on that Korean National Health Insurance if you're staying longer than 90 days and if you're on a long-term visa. But again, you're going to be paying about $110 a month for that Korean National Health Insurance, National Healthcare Insurance. With that, there are some caveats. There are certain restrictions on what is covered under the National Health Insurance here in Korea, and there are certain age limits. So like if you need to get a colonoscopy, you can't get it until after you're 40. If there's cancer and there's other big things, you got to pay for all that out of pocket. So it's not like, free healthcare, free everything. It is an insurance plan. And again, there's that capitalistic, you get what you pay for and so on and so forth. But the prices here in Korea are definitely a lot less than what they are in the United States. And unfortunately, what has happened in the United States is that you have healthcare insurance, and then the insurance company says, okay, well, we're going to make this money. The insurance companies, we're going to make this money, we're going to charge this much, so we're going to make a bunch of money. And then what ended up happening is that the medical community and the pharmaceutical companies said, whoa, wait a second now. People are having more money, they have insurance. So then what they do is they jack up the prices of their medications and their prescriptions based upon how much money they can get. So when you see a medication that's in the United States and it costs $700 versus going overseas and getting the exact same medication for $50, yeah, there's a reason why. It's because our health insurance program is so broke in the United States, and it's just like a license for corruption, that these pharmaceutical companies will raise the prices of their prescriptions to such outlandish levels it's not even funny. So that's what I've kind of noticed with people who go overseas and they get any type of medical care. You will find out that you will get way more for your money than what you do in the United States. And we see this a lot in the United States, where you have people that are traveling to Canada to get their prescriptions filled because the exact same prescription filled in the United States, hundreds, even thousands of dollars, can be half or three quarters in a different country. That's why you have people going to Canada, people go down to down to Mexico to get the prescriptions filled. It's just, people are now getting their stuff mailed. So, there's that. But overseas prescriptions and prices are definitely a lot lower here in Korea. And I know they're lower in Philippines and Thailand and in other really popular expat retiree overseas locations. So, it gets pretty interesting. Now, here's another thing we ended up doing. Because we were feeling under the weather, we're sick, sinus infection, and whatever else it was. We also got an IV. So you get like one of those immune boosting IVs, with the B12 series of vitamins and this and that and all that. You're looking at about, 175 was kind of the cheapest that I saw in the United States, going all the way up to $300, $400, $500 for an IV pack. And in Hawaii, I think we checked, there was one clinic that we checked to get that same immune pack IV drip was $250. Here in Korea, it was just like, I don't know, $20, something like that. It is just very, very inexpensive compared to, what you saw in the United States. $250 versus like $50 or $20 or whatever it was. So, yeah, the out-of-pocket costs are definitely less in an overseas country compared to the United States from the places that I've been to. And we're talking about Thailand, we're talking about Mexico, Canada, what are some other places? Japan, Japan was a little bit cheaper. Where else have I been? Well, anyway, so that's to let you know about clinic costs and can you go to clinics if you don't have health insurance. Now, the reason that we went to the small clinic, because it was local, it was quick, it was fast. We didn't have to call and wait for an appointment. So in the United States, if you want to go to a walk-in clinic, sometimes you have to make an appointment and wait to see a provider. You could be waiting there for hours. Here in Korea, it depends on the clinic that you go to, but overall, every hospital and clinic that I've been to here in Korea has been wonderfully quick. And I think we might have had to wait like maybe 20 minutes at the most to be able to see the doctor. So, for example, when we went to get the immune IV drip and then see the doctor for the sinus infection and stuff, that we walked in and it was like, there's like 15 people waiting and I'm like, let's just skip this. We'll just do it tomorrow. And the wife's like, no, we'll get our IV drip first and then we'll be put in queue to be able to see the doctor for our other problems. It was like, oh, okay. So they had the bed space there. So we had a nice bed, lay down, they do the IV, like an hour later, is kind of dozed off, took a nap. As soon as we finished with that and got cleaned up, sat down, it was like maybe 10 minutes, boom, we're in to see the doctor. And the doctors in Korea are very efficient. It's very fast. It's not like the United States. It's kind of like the opposite of the United States. There are some differences, and they see a lot of people, so they're about efficiency and effectiveness. So there's not a lot of, how's the family? Not a lot of small talk. It's like, okay, well, what are we dealing with? What are we doing? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's what we're going to do. And then they, get you your medications and so on and so forth. So, yeah, we're able to go into, and this is a pretty popular clinic close to where we live. And the doctor's great. And again, it's just really, really interesting. So, yeah, definitely if you're going to live overseas or be on a long-term visa, you need to look at your options. And for those people that are retired military and have TRICARE Prime or TRICARE for Life or whatever, you can get that switched over, I know, from TRICARE Prime to TRICARE Overseas Select. And that will qualify you for an exception to getting the Korean National Health Insurance policies that cost about $110 a month. Now, some people are like, well, I'm just going to get the Korean National Health Insurance, and then it's less than what I would pay in the United States or for the service for TRICARE or whatever. And they think, that's going to be, I'd rather do that because I'm going to live in Korea and whatever. Yeah, you absolutely can. But again, you need to look at the limits of what is covered under that national program. And the second thing I want to talk about that is a warning to all people is that if you get Korean national health insurance, you cannot use it outside of Korea. Okay? So that is a huge difference. So if you're a military veteran, retiree, you have TRICARE Prime, something of that nature, I can use TRICARE Prime in Thailand, in Philippines, here in Korea, and whether the hospital processes those claims for me or whether I have to file those claims, I can use that health insurance in overseas locations. Whereas with the Korean national health insurance, you can't use those overseas. So in some places, if you have health insurance in the United States and you stop your insurance and you cancel it, you're done. You're out of the system. Okay. And then let's say you're living in Korea or some overseas location and you have like the health insurance, say like for Thailand. I think in Thailand, once you hit age 70, you're cut off and you're responsible for everything. So again, when is the worst? When do you incur the most medical costs and prescriptions and seeing doctors? When you get older, when you hit, 60, 65, 70 and older. But in Thailand, it ends up, I'm pretty sure it's like 70 years old. You're pretty much cut off and you're responsible for paying for whatever on your own. So for those people that are looking to retire overseas, again, you got to stay abreast of what is covered, how long you're covered, are there age restrictions? You can't just go here in Korea and say, oh, well, I want this done, this done, this done, this done under Korean National Health Insurance. And they say, well, you haven't met the qualifications. You haven't reached the age requirement to get colonoscopies, especially if you don't have anything, indicating that you have those problems. Now, so yeah, there's some care that we get in the United States earlier than Korea, and Korea has some age limits on which or age requirements that you have to meet before you can get said care. Again, it all comes back to being well informed of the country that you're going to be an expat or retire in. So, but as far as like just like colds and flus and stuff like that, medical clinics in your local towns are really great. And they can do things like IVs, they can do x-rays, they're almost like a general practitioner in a sense. They can do a variety of different things, but when it gets into, setting bones or serious issues and so on and so forth, then you would have to go to a larger hospital or medical center. Now, with that being said, you go to a Korean hospital and even a Korean clinic, and you'll see there's a lot of people. And my wife informed me the other day that the average Korean doctor sees 75 to 100 patients a day. Now, I think that's dealing with larger medical centers, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, if you go like to Samsung Medical Center and you walk in there, it's like walking into a crowded train station during rush hour. When everybody's going to work or coming home or whatever it is, it's packed. It gives you that feel of like a busy train station, bus station that is just, rush hour. And the appointments are by the numbers. And they will have multiple stations testing for the same thing to get the high amount of people that they need to get through. And here in Korea, it seems like the larger cities like Busan, like definitely Seoul, Incheon, and maybe a couple other places, which are probably the top 5 or top 10 cities in Korea, have larger hospitals, but then everybody else goes to the smaller medical clinics. And so if you have a serious problem or a serious issue that you're dealing with medically, you will travel to those larger or well-known hospitals. And I think the Samsung Medical Clinic is like number 3 in Korea. And that's where I went to get my eye surgery done and all that stuff. When I had the retinal tears, the retina, detached retina, they had to get the lens replaced, the whole 9 yards because of cataracts. I went up there, but my TRICARE paid for everything for that. And again, just the quality of service is so much higher than what I've experienced in the United States. Hands down, I could say honestly that I have received better medical care and higher quality medical care here in Korea than I have in the United States. And that's, there's, you know, it's a shame because you would think, being the United States, being a world leader, they would be on the ball when it comes to medical care for its citizens. But after living in a number of states and military bases and so on and so forth, I definitely see that Korea has way better care for people than what we experienced in the United States. So yeah, that might be another reason of people who want to retire overseas, or people who are like in our situation to retire in Korea. But again, kind of rehashing what are the costs for medical clinics, it's minimal. Depending on what you get done. But if you're looking for just like, fevers, coughs, colds, flus, sinus infections, kind of the urgent care clinic that you could walk into the United States, where you're going to pay a lot of money if you had to pay out of pocket, you're not going to pay a lot of money for that medical care, the appointments, and for the medications. So, for example, I think it was like $200, just over $200, what my wife and I paid for an appointment for me, for my wife, for her and I to get the IV drip, the immune IV drip, B12 magic thing that they did. And then she got some medications. I got some medications for our flu-like symptoms, and me for my sinus infection. And then also the medication I got for that toe fungus that I got that is going to take a while to go away. But yeah, it's just it's like $200 altogether for all of that. And even the IV drip thing, I don't think that doesn't come with the Korean national healthcare insurance, but a lot of Koreans will do the immune drips and the energy drips and all of those things that they have. It's not too common in the United States, but it is really common here in Korea. So if you're feeling down, if you're hungover, you go get your IV drip, and it does make a big difference. So there were some people that were asking about that. What are kind of the costs? And again, maybe I'll get into more details later on exact details, but I didn't really want to get into exactly, how much or what the medications were and the exact pricing. But I just wanted to give some estimates because, again, it all depends on the symptoms that you have and what you're being treated for. So, but the costs are minimal. Prescriptions are great. So much easier to get that stuff here than it is in the United States. The only difference or problems that we have had, or I've had, is that I can get medications, I can get prescriptions from a Korean doctor or a Korean hospital, and I can get them filled on post at the military base for free. So that's kind of a cool thing. They just have to have it printed out in Korean and have it printed out in English. But there are some medications that Korean doctors are not allowed to prescribe that the on-post pharmacy will not fill because there's no special authorization that apparently American doctors have, even though they have that medication, and it's just kind of a jurisdictional type of thing. But like I said, the PTSD medicine that I'm taking is like $15, for a month. So yeah, it's just kind of strange on some of these things because, if I saw an American doctor on base, which you can't because it's a standby and they're understaffed and it's just terrible. They can't even treat the number of service members and families that they have now, let alone retirees. Even if I could get that, it just doesn't make sense. So anyway, I could ramble on a little bit more, but some people had asked me those questions, so there it is. Talk a little bit about the medical. The majority of the time you can do walk-in services, which is great. And again, I've never had long wait times. So that's kind of the thing. I will say there was one more thing that we were checking into, which was a total body physical. And it was, let me see if I actually have that. Do I have that? Yeah, I think here it is. So here, this is kind of like the full body, everything. Let me make a copy for me so I can read it off. But this is a health examination for basically everything. So you can get a brain MRI, brain MRA, kid inspection, colonoscopy, heart ultrasonography, DNA, 2 DNA tests for 5 types of cancers, 5 types of diseases, which is listed there. Alzheimer test for Alzheimer's risk, allergic diseases by food or respiratory tract, coronary, chest, lung, heart, spine, abdominal, brain MCT for brain diseases, carotid sonography for obstructive vascular disease. Just all of the HPV, genotyping, blood heavy metal test. So all of these tests here on this list that we see right here, it ends up that would be about $1.1 million. So $1.1 million, if we put in $1.1 million and divide that by 1,300, that's going to be about $770. But I think when my wife checked, it's between $1 and $2 million. Of course, depending on the hospital that you go to, that you can get a full medical checkup. Of course, this is not covered by Korean National Health Insurance, and you pay for this out of your own pocket. So while it might seem expensive, you can get all of this done and see where you are medically. So for example, if you're at risk for Alzheimer's, that would be a good thing to know. So that way, when preventive Alzheimer's medicine comes out, you can do that now sooner than later. And again, you can be made abreast or apprised of any medical problems that you have. And we're seriously thinking about doing this in maybe a year or two, where we'll each get one of these and to see where we are with all of this. But again, that's going to be something that's out of pocket. But could you imagine getting this, all of this, in the United States? I mean, for $1,000 or $1,500, $2,000, all of this for $2,000? Yeah, that there's no way on God's green earth. So about $1 million to $2 million is what we're looking at, that you would pay out of pocket to do all this. But it would be a great way to see where you are medically and where you stand health-wise. I know a lot of things in the United States for health is reactive. There's not a lot of preventive medicine. So, of course, in the United States, it's all reactive. Here in Korea, it's reactive, but you do have this option to get additional testing as you pay out of pocket. And if you know that you're having some, you have some problems with your blood vessels and you have some clotting and so on and so forth, or you get, cholesterol and plaque buildup in your arteries, that you can find out the results and get treated beforehand instead of waiting until you have a stroke or, heart attack or something like that, and it ends poorly. So, but yeah, you're going to pay a little bit for healthcare either way. And unfortunately, as we get older, medical problems come with more frequency, and that's another good reason to stay in shape and exercise, 3 to 5 times a week. Do your cardio, 75 minutes to 150 minutes a week. We are a huge proponent of that, to be able to live longer, live healthier lives, with the hope of kicking the bucket of just falling asleep and then not waking up and not having, terrible medical problems or, all of that ugly stuff that comes towards your end of life. So anyway, that's enough rambling. Put your ideas on what you think about medical care in the United States. Are there some good examples of care, bad examples? Have you had medical care overseas, like on a vacation or when you were traveling, or maybe you worked overseas? And how did that compare to your experience of medical care in the United States? I'd really like to know that as well. And the prices, just give some estimates of how much it cost for what you got done in another country versus what it would be in the United States, and how did those two things compare? I'd be interested in knowing that as well. So anyway, yeah, retiring overseas, and for us being retired in Korea, medical clinics are a good thing, and costs are not expensive like in the United States if you pay out of pocket. So your money does go farther. So with that being said, I hope you have a good one, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace. Good stuff.